In the deep sea garden, time is different. No solstice, equinox, dawn, sunset. In pitch black, coral grows. Squid weaves between branches, tracing the blue glow of a mate. In the jaws of a fish, a brittle star casts off a trapped, flashing limb, which reforms in the dark garden. Zombie sharks fall from light, broken, finless, creating feeding frenzies in the deep. Above, humans spoon shark fin soup between their blood-red lips.
The price of freedom. I was born at the bottom of the ocean, and there I will die. A king's daughter murdered by a king's son, a man who sailed the 7 seas yet is afraid of depths. I didn't know the word for light, I never needed it in the deep. My father made me out of sand and poured sea foam through my veins. Eels rocked me to sleep in the faint glow of jellyfish, and seahorses nibbled at my toes in the morning, gently bringing me back from my dreams. I wore starfish around my neck and a coral tiara on top of my head. Orcas ferried me around, sharks guarded my quarters. I now reckon I had everything, yet something always seemed to be missing. As I grew older, my world grew smaller. I asked jellyfish to stay away from my underwater cave. They weren't glowing miracles, as I used to believe, just gelatinous monsters. I reaped all the starfish from my neck, irked by their suckers constantly tickling my skin, leaving red marks behind. In my dreams, I ventured out of my father's kingdom close to the surface, where elderly mermaids said fish were all the colors we couldn't see. A day shy of my 18th birthday, I distracted the sharks patrolling my cave and escaped. I swished my tail up and down with all the strength I could muster, propelling myself to the surface. Dozens of boats paraded before my eyes while hands clapped on the nearby shore. I'd heard about people, but I'd never seen them. They looked like they knew things we didn't. I swam to the shore and hid behind a rock. A man was standing on the bow of the first ship, wearing a rich costume and a sad smile. As he approached, dozens of other men kneeled in front of him. I crawled on the beach and slept under the stars, dreamt of a life larger than the ocean. The following morning, I woke to find my tail dry and itchy in the sun. The forces of the ocean had granted me a wish upon my birth. I asked for legs. I watched my scales turn to ashes. In their place, a pair of legs had grown, long and smooth and difficult to use at first. As I staggered away, a seal approached me. Your wish has been granted, but you need to give the ocean something back. There is no free gift in our world, and neither in this one, as you will find out eventually, he said. What do you want? I asked, still unstable on my new feet. If you want to live with humans, then be it, but you will lose your voice. Its melody will stay at the bottom of the sea. I understand, I said, hearing my voice for the last time. It's not all, he added. You walk, but not without pain. With every step you remember, this is not where you were born or where you were supposed to live. Anything to be free, I thought, with the naivety of those who never had to mend a broken heart. I danced my way into the grandest houses and palaces. At night, when I took my shoes off, my feet were reduced to morsels of raw, bloody flesh. I dressed them in clean gauze and waited for the skin to grow back before morning. Week after week, I danced and bled until I met the man from the boat again. He was the king's son, and he said he'd never known bliss before he saw me. We married on a moonlit night on the shore. My bare feet didn't bleed in the sea water. For some time, we were happy. One day, my husband asked me why I couldn't speak. He was growing tired of the notes I used to leave on his pillow in the morning. I'll find the best doctor in the kingdom for you, he said. I shook my head and wrote, No doctor can ever hear my voice, but my answer didn't satisfy him. I want to hear your voice, he insisted. How will our children learn to speak with a mother like you? We didn't have any children yet. Every month, when blood crushed my hopes, I wondered if I hadn't sacrificed motherhood too, alongside my voice and health. My husband stopped visiting me at night. He sailed for weeks at a time, and when he came back, he avoided being alone with me. I followed him one night. He went to the theatre and sat in the first row, listening for hours to a woman singing with the voice of an angel, or of a mermaid still living at the bottom of the sea. I saw him fall in love with the quiet desperation of those who thought they would never know joy again. Before the winter winds disrobed the trees in our garden and covered our windows with frost, he left me. I can't grow old with a woman who's lost her voice, he said. I gave it up for you, I screamed without sound. I need a woman who knows her worth and isn't afraid to ask for more, he replied, as I melted into sea foam at his feet.
Rottingdean by Helen Kennedy. There's a body lying on the groin, wrapped in bladder wrack, difficult to sex. The sea drags at the rim of gravel as I walk along the undercliff, check out the tide line. Sometimes our identity is transitory, exposed to the elements, returned from the sea. I gave up sex for years, the intertidal ebb and flow of motherhood. The tide breathes in and out. I reclaimed myself at the midlife low water mark. Women's bodies were soft like sugar kelp, adapted to live on exposed shores. Bioluminescent breasts and hollow limbs grown on shells. You came to Rottingdean to find me, but I'd already floated away, swum in moonlit high tides, the sea constantly shifting.
Hello, I'm Marcelle Newbold, and this is my poem from Fly on the Wall Press's Under the Sea issue. I remember when the sea swelled up to my door, when I thought it would tip right in, that a boundary would be broken, that all that darkness would stain, that I would never be dry again, that the liquid would become ingrained. I remember when I wished it would slosh all around me, hoped the colours would bleed, hoped for an engulfing, hoped for the taste of brine, hoped I could not swim, and believed it was here for me.
Only Home for Daniel. 1. We almost trip on the washed up jellyfish as we walk into the ocean. 2 modern day selkies returning home. The waves swallowing us on a straight path downwards, we are acting as if we could steer away from this path at any time. To explore the shipwrecks and crevices and meadows of algae we pass by as if we're not the passers-by of this world. 2. 2 men holding hands are passers-by of many worlds. Driftwood thrown out to sink again, but look, we breathe as well here as elsewhere. And look, there might be others down here. Jellyfish or selkies or remains. Even the oceans of ourselves do remain largely unexplored. All waves and foam and surfaces. 3. The darker it gets, the more we feel the presence of others. As in, we might never get to see the bottom of the ocean, but we can still let it swallow us. 4. The pressure here might kill us, my love. Match it with your hand. We only dissolve if we stop walking. 5. We are only home when we say we are.